everyone, and welcome to this week's C3 The Bukit Church Online Experience.
Halo semuanya, kembali kita ke pengalaman gereja online bersama Sitri di Bukit.
We are so glad you can join us. If it's your first time, we welcome you.
Kami sangat senang saudara bisa bergabung bersama kami. Jikalau ini pertama kali bagi saudara menyaksikan video ini, kami bilang selamat datang.
Welcome.
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 Though circumstances change, your love remains the same. No matter how I feel, I put my trust in you. And though the storms may rise and troubles come my way, you're the rock on which I stand, and I will not be moved. I choose to stand upon your word with faith in my heart. I believe your promises. Choose to stand upon your word with faith in my heart. I believe your promises. Though circumstances change, your love remains the same. No matter how I feel, I put my trust in you. And though the storms may rise and troubles come my way, you're the rock on which I stand, and I will not be moved. I choose to stand upon your word with faith in my heart. I believe your promises. I choose to stand upon your word with faith in my heart. I believe your promises. I choose to stand upon your word with faith in my heart. I believe your promises. I choose to stand upon your word with faith in my heart, and I believe your promises. You are faithful, you are in control. Faithful, you are in control. For you hold the universe in your hands. You hold the universe in your hands. I choose to stand upon your word with faith in my heart. I believe your promises. Choose to stand upon your word with faith in my heart. I believe your promises. You are faithful, you are in control. You are faithful, you are in control. You hold the universe in your hands. You hold the universe in your hands. You are faithful, you are in control. You are faithful, you are in control. You hold the universe in your hands. You hold the universe in your hands. You hold the universe in your hands. You hold the universe in your hands.
I'm excited now to introduce our lead pastor from Australia, Pastor Jason Schroeder.
Saya sangat antusias saudara memperkenalkan pengkhotbah kita hari ini, pastor dari Sitri Heights, Australia, Pastor Jason Schroeder.
He will bring a message, so grab your note-taking devices now.
Dia akan menyampaikan khotbah yang luar biasa, pastikan saudara mencatatnya hari ini.
Hello, C3TB.
Hello.
Woo! Our wonderful Bali friends.
Yes.
A big shout out from us to you.
So good to see you.
Yeah, you guys are amazing. Exciting things happening in your neck of the woods.
Sure are.
And hey, we just want to say we're so proud of you guys and really excited to share this message with you today.
Yes.
So, this is a new series that we are starting. So, our series is called The Real Jesus.
Woo.
And this will be rolling for a number of weeks, and excited to share this with you. You know, our understanding of who Jesus is and then the choices we make about him shape our everyday lives and our eternity like nothing else. So no pressure, no pressure. What we're covering in this series, The Real Jesus, is we're looking at the 7 miracles of Jesus as recorded in the Gospel of John. Jesus did a whole lot more miracles than that, a whole lot more incredible things, but what John has pieced together are called signs that point us towards Jesus. And babe, do you want to read
sure.
for us? At the end of the book of John, we get a little insight here.
Yeah, so this is from John 20 of verse 30. Says, Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name.
Come on, beautiful. So what we have here is these things have been written so that we can believe and then we can have life. It's like John is saying, I know Jesus. I want you to know Jesus like I know him. And I'm writing this book to help you see him, know him, ultimately follow him into the abundant life that he has for you. So that's what we're having a look at today. So we're going to jump right in now, babe.
Yes, we
to John 2. And let's read the first miracle here in the book of John.
Absolutely. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind that were used by Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 80 to 120 litres. Jesus said to his servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you saved the best till now." What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him.
Come on. This week, the real Jesus transformer. The real Jesus transformer. That's what we're unpacking today. And we see that in this miracle here as Jesus transforms the water into wine. What we have here is Jesus and his disciples. They arrive somewhere within the 7 days of this wedding feast, and they arrive in the town of Cana, which is walking distance from Jesus' hometown of Nazareth. And we see that Jesus' mother was there, and so there's possibly family, friends, relatives, something like that. And in verse 3 we see, when the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." Very descriptive, right? But what we have here is this first miracle. Actually, Mary sees a need and she reaches out to Jesus and opens the door for a miracle for someone else.
Wow.
Incredible. And don't you understand that mums have special ways of talking different to the rest of us humans. And
Yes, they do.
This is a leading statement. And I think mums are they're genius at making leading statements that have embedded actions inside of them. And we have to be careful not to miss that. Like if mum says, I'm going to the shops to grab some things, I'll be back in 45 minutes, and there's a load of washing about to finish in the washing machine. Be careful not to miss the action embedded in the statement.
Yes, that's right.
Mum would like the washing done, and whether you're a mum of kids, and this is for husbands here, or with your mother, it rolls the same. And so Mary has got an action embedded in this statement, and here's, like, this is incredible. So Mary has never seen Jesus do a miracle. No one has at this point, but Mary knows him. She's his mum. She's seen him grow, been a part of his life. She has a depth of connection. She's been there while Jesus is playing, while he's learning, while all these things are happening in his world. And so Mary knows before anyone else that Jesus is transformer. She knows that he's able to do more than the rest of the world has yet seen.
Yeah.
And our first thought for us here with Jesus the transformer is that depth of connection matters. Depth of connection matters.
Yes.
And when we have a shallow connection, we could not engage with Jesus at the wedding. We could miss him at the wedding. Or we might not connect the dots of what he is actually able to do. We might not even go up and ask him, or then we might not even respond to what he said. But here there is a depth of connection that Mary has that opens the doorway for this miracle. And for us to develop this depth of connection, and it doesn't happen instantly, but over time we build this increasingly deep connection with God. And one of the most incredible and necessary ways for us to do that is by diving into the Bible.
Yes.
That Jesus wants to reveal himself to us through the Bible, through his word. And one of the best things we can do, that you can do even watching today, if you're wanting to know Jesus more, wanting to build this depth of connection like Mary had, that opened the doorway for the miraculous, is maybe you could even just dive into the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and you could read about who Jesus is. Imagine you just did that for 10 minutes a day, reading some of the Gospels and having this question, this statement, this leaning in your heart that says, Jesus, I want to build a deeper connection with you. That can be profound, life-changing.
Yeah, wow.
We move on to verse 4, and this sounds a bit confronting for us today. Woman, why do you involve me? Jesus says to his mum. My hour has not yet come. And so we have to understand contextually the use of the word woman here. This isn't harsh. This wasn't a disrespectful tone. And then Jesus uses this expression, my hour or my time has not yet come. He uses this 5 times. It's recorded in the book of John. And let me kind of paraphrase what Jesus is unpacking here that's layered with meaning. It's something like this. Mum, I have to be so careful. Just because I can doesn't make it the Father's will, doesn't make it the Father's timeline. Yes, I am the miracle maker, but more than that, I've come to die.
Yes, wow.
That my whole life lives under the shadow of the cross. And every miracle I do, it positions me as a threat. As I reveal my glory, I stir a clash. I stir a clash that you can see the wonder of heaven, but also the anger of hell. Yeah. And as I reveal my glory, as I do these mighty works, the life I bring, it's going to threaten some of those who are in power, and they're going to want me dead. And it's not my time to die just yet. My time has not yet come. There is prophetic fulfillment that I still have to walk out. And so as I do this miracle today, you just need to know that I start a ticking clock. Mary replies, in verse 5, and she says to the servants, she doesn't overpush here, but I love this. She says, just do whatever he tells you. Do whatever Jesus tells you. And babe, you remember we launched this year, and if you're a part of our church, hopefully you remember we launched this year with our series in John 10.
Yes.
And we looked at Jesus as shepherd and how he wants to lead us down pathways where there are patterns in our lives that lead us then to provision and protection. And that's what he wants for us. And babe, do you remember the statement that says he something something and we something something? Public test.
Ha.
Public test.
He calls and leads.
It's good so far.
I listen and follow.
Boom!
Boom. High five.
Glorious work. He calls and leads. I listen and follow. And the miracle zone, where we begin to unleash the power of Jesus, transformer, is when we listen and follow. Do whatever he tells you. This is where the power happens. Verse 6, nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind that were used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. And again, I haven't mentioned this yet actually, but after this account, Jesus goes on and he clears out the temple courts. And what we have in the scripture we just read is there are so many embedded layers of meaning. And these jars were used for ceremonial washing, purification. That this represents religious duty and religious effort. And what we have happening in this miracle is Jesus, the transformer, he comes to transform ceremonial washing into celebration.
Yeah, wow.
He comes to transform the old covenant into the new covenant.
Amazing.
To transform law into grace.
Yes.
To transform duty-driven religion
Wow.
into deep connection. And that is layered into what is happening here. Verse 7, Jesus says to his servants, fill the jars. Fill the jars. Fill the jars with water. So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, now draw out some of the water, take it to the master of the banquet or the master of ceremonies. They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned to wine. He didn't realize where it had come from, though the servants knew what had happened here. And then he called the bridegroom aside and he said, everyone brings out the choice wine first and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. And also it's probably worth noting here that this is a Jewish context, a Jewish setting where it was clearly understood that drunkenness was not a part of God's plan. So they're not talking about that. But then he goes on and says, but you have saved the best till now. Jesus said to the servants in verse 7, fill the jars. Fill the jars. Fill the jars with water. So they went and they filled them to the brim. Now, we have to note that in this miracle, as the water gets transformed into wine, however much they put in, they got out.
Yes.
So if they had filled them halfway,
Yes.
they would have got halfway filled with wine. They filled them to the brim.
Yeah,
the
come
water
on.
that was not in the pots, the jars, was not transformed, but everything that was transformed. So fill the jars. Fill the jars. Do whatever he tells you, whatever he tells us. Transformation occurs at the intersection of deep connection and filling the jars.
Yes. Wow.
Doing whatever he says. That in that glorious space in between is where his power moves. So fill the jars. Fill the jars. And so for us, we fill the jars with areas of our need. And so Mary said, there's no wine. There's no wine. We need wine. So Jesus says, let's take what we've got, fill them with water, and then he transforms that into wine. They would have just been drinking water because they'd run out of wine. But he takes the lack and he turns it into provision. And so for us, we need to fill the jars. Fill the jars. And so if you need help and you've got a racing mind, your emotions are all over the place, then can I encourage you today, fill the jars with your fear. Fill the jars with your worry. Fill the jars, and don't just fill them to the brim. Fill not just one jar, but all the jars, so that they can overflow, that there can be a transformation where he can transform that worry, that fear into faith.
Yeah, what a word. Wow.
Into peace. Fill the jars. And maybe you're like me, and in this interesting season, you've needed help with your parenting. My goodness. My hand's up. You need
Mine
help
too.
with your parenting. Fill the jars. Fill the jars with your frustration, with your inadequacy, with the, oh my goodness, how are we going to keep doing this?
Help us,
Fill the jars with the problems, the challenges, and then let him transform that water into wine. Let him transform that challenge into glory. Where on the flip side, he transforms it into his enabling, into supernatural patience.
Amen.
I receive.
Yes.
Into wisdom to deal with the crazy family challenges that are happening right now. And don't just fill a little bit. Don't just come to him in prayer and fill a little bit of one jar. Oh God, could you please help me? And then we're just on trying to solve things practically. Fill the jars to the brim. Pour in what you need. God, I need your help as a parent. As a dad, I'm desperate for you to come and help me. I want to be better than what I can be in myself. I need you alive inside of me. Help me right now in this season. And fill the jars to the brim that he can do that transformation in our lives. And so what is it that you need to fill the jars with to see him transform it? Do you need to fill the jars with your deep pain? And there's a pain in your heart or your soul. And he says, come on, fill the jars. Let's do what he says, fill the jars. That there can be a transformation in that deep pain can be transformed into wholeness.
Yes.
That there can be a healing work that Jesus can do in your life. Do you need to bring him that attitude? You just got a ganky attitude about what's going on. Don't hang on to it. That's not where you're designed to live. Bring him the attitude. Fill the jars. Fill the jars with it so that he can transform it so there's a sweetness in you.
Yes.
Maybe it's a place of frustration. Fill the jars with your frustration that he can transform it into a creative solution. Maybe there's business challenges. There's some financial challenges. Fill the jars with it. Don't just solve it practically yourself, running around. There's no wine. What are we going to do? There's no provision. There's no this. Fill the jars. Bring it before him in prayer.
Yes.
Bring it to him and say, God, I'm coming to you and I need a transformation. And let him transform that space where there is wisdom, where there is provision that comes from Jesus, the transformer. Maybe it's laziness and you're finding yourself so lazy at home right now. Bring it to him, fill the jars, and let him turn it, transform it into passion, and let passion rise in your place right now. Maybe it's insecurity that he needs to turn to confidence, and there's a deep work there. Or what's interesting in this account also is that for the host of the wedding, this is an honor-shame culture we're talking about. And to run out of wine at a wedding ceremony would have brought deep shame to the family. And what Jesus does behind the scenes is he comes in and he turns that shame into honor. He just removes the shame. And so maybe you feel ashamed about something you've done or something that's happened to you. Maybe you've walked away from God and you don't know how you could ever step back into a church. And so reaching out online has just been some way of trying to connect with him again. Let Jesus, the transformer, as you fill the jars with your shame, whatever that represents, fill the jars with your shame and let him transform that into honor, where he wants you, as you humble yourself, that he would honor you, that he would wipe that shame away and turn it into blessing. And so let's fill the jars. And what is incredible here is we have 20 to 30 gallons that's talked about, and babe, I think you read it in liters. And so if we average it out at 25 gallons in the middle amount there, we're looking at roughly 95 liters per jar. 95 litres per jar.
Says 80 to 100.
80 to 100. Yeah, okay. So we're going to go with 95 because
95 's
that's
smack in
what
the
I've
middle.
done the maths on. And so 95 litres. That's approximately 125 bottles of wine. That's pretty extravagant. 125 bottles of wine. Jesus didn't get them just to fill one jar. He didn't say, hey, just fill one jar with water or just fill a little bit of a jar because I think that might just get us through. He says, fill all 6 jars. Fill them with water. They filled them to the brim. We're talking about 750 bottles of wine. That's pretty cool.
That's a lot of wine.
750 bottles of wine. Now, what this means is that there is more than what could be consumed at the wedding feast. And so now the shame that was coming onto this family is turned to honor as they have to just give away the wine. And so they would have been giving away wine all through Cana, all through their town. And Jesus was glorified. They were honored as this miracle happened, as people just simply followed what Jesus said to do. There was more than enough. And we need to know that on the other side of transformation, there's overflow.
Yes.
On the other side of transformation, there is overflow. And so it's our mission to share the overflow.
Yes.
That's what he wants. That's what was demonstrated in the first miracle we see here in the book of John, is that God wants us, his people, to have overflow in our lives so that we can share that overflow. And we also see that Jesus errs on the side of generosity. And there is extravagant generosity flowing here. His heart is represented here. His ways are represented here. In verse 11, as we wrap this out today, it says, what Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which Jesus revealed his glory and his disciples believed in him. So what we have is as the miraculous power of God is poured out in us and through us, it reveals his glory. It reveals his glory. And we reveal his glory as we are transformed by him. And as we are transformed by him, there is overflow that comes into our lives so that others are blessed. And through that, people believe in him as Savior. That the disciples were new. They're just a few days into following Jesus. They're trying to figure out what they believe, and they see something of his glory released here in this miracle as people opened the door for it, and they believed in him. And as we are people that step into this place that we're talking about here today, where there would be a depth of connection that we grow with him, where we would fill the jars and do what he says, and then when we're sharing in the overflow, that people will see, they will believe in him. And so wherever you are on that journey, whether you're new and you're making a decision today to dive in, then dive in and start building a depth of connection with Jesus that really matters. Or whether we're consolidating that desire in us that, yes, that's who I am and that's what I want to be. And can all of us, again, make this choice to fill the jars? Fill the jars. What's that area of need? Pour it into those jars. Don't just pour in a little bit, but fill it to the brim so that he can transform everything that we pour into that place. And in doing so, we are doing what he's telling us to do. And then let us be people that share the overflow, of all that he's pouring into our lives. And again, as we do, we are making this world a better place. People see Jesus through us. He's glorified. Woo! Everybody wins. Everybody wins. So just to reaffirm it for us today, the real Jesus, transformer. Week 1, this week, real Jesus, transformer. And our three thoughts here. Depth of connection matters. Fill the jars. Do whatever he tells us. Fill the jars and share the overflow. Let's do it.
Wow. What a word. What a word about our real Jesus. That he is a transformer. There is so much meat and goodness and revelation in that word for us to chew on. Thanks, Jace, for bringing that to us, to opening our eyes again to who the real Jesus is. And so now, friends, we're going to come around a time of communion. We're going to have a song playing in a moment, but hopefully you've got your emblems ready, your communion emblems ready. So as this song plays now, I'd love you to take a hold of those emblems of victory, of the purpose of Jesus's sacrifice, taking a hold of the bread and the cup. And as this song plays, my prayer is that these words of life, these words of truth about the real Jesus will be embedded in our spirit, that they will land there in our hearts, that as we take these emblems, we will consider and remember and meditate on our real Jesus, and those words will be embedded in us. So friends, as this song plays, as you're ready, as you've sung, take a hold of those emblems and let's share in communion together.
Beautiful. God bless you. Good.
We have some fantastic news today. Our very own Pastor Rachael and Immanuel were married on Friday. We have some photos coming up soon.
Kabar menggembirakan saudara, Pastor Rachael dan Immanuel sudah menikah hari Jumat yang lalu. Sebentar lagi kita akan menyaksikan foto yang menarik dari pasangan ini.
Emmanuel Sitorus, do you take Rachael Dobra to be your wife?
Yes, I do.
Great choice.
What beautiful photos of a beautiful couple. We are believing that they are on their honeymoon enjoying themselves right now.
Foto yang sangat bagus dari pasangan yang luar biasa. Kami percaya mereka sedang menikmati bulan madu mereka saat ini.
All Connect groups are still online. For more information, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and our website at C3 The Bukit.
Seluruh Connect Group masih berjalan secara online. Untuk informasi lebih lanjut, silakan kunjungi Instagram, Facebook, website C3 The Bukit.
Our giving is online. The details will be on the screen in a moment.
Saudara dapat memberi persembahan secara online. Detail informasi akan ditampilkan setelah layar berikut ini.
Thank you for joining us for Church Online. We hope you enjoyed today's service and remember to subscribe, like, comment and share this video with your friends.
Terima kasih saudara sudah bergabung dengan ibadah kami hari ini. Jangan lupa subscribe, like, komen, dan sharingkan video ini kepada teman-teman saudara.
Happy Sunday!